everyone, Jordan here, and today we have a new Minecraft video. Today we have an exciting video showing off multiple liveries and airplanes, and we're going to be showcasing the American Airlines Airbus A321 fleet with some special liveries. This is a super cool fleet. I love these liveries and I'm really excited to get started. So without further ado, let's just start and begin with it right now. So we're going to start here with the standard livery. This is the standard American Airlines A321 livery that you see all the time at your local airport and whatnot. Now, for this video, since most of these cabins are the exact same, I'm going to showcase this airplane in detail, and then we're going to go on towards these special liveries. But because those don't really have different interiors, we're going to end up skipping those and we'll just show the exterior. So that's going to be our little plan for today. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So this is the standard American Airlines livery. We have the pitot-static system, the door, the American flight symbol, and it says American on the fuselage. We also have this combined with the not RB211. I keep saying this. I'm sorry. I've been dealing with a lot of airplanes similar to that, but it's not the RB211. It's the IAE V2500 engine. Very different. We have the pylon, the landing gear right here, and then we have the wing, and we also have sharklets on this airplane, which kind of indicate that this is a newer delivery. This isn't from US Airways. This is a brand new delivery from the US Airways American Airlines merger. So this airplane got delivered in the mid to late 2010s. Anyways, we have the rear of the airplane. We have the American flag. We have the registration. We have a SATCOM, and then we also have the American Airlines tail design with a gradient and whatnot. I know a lot of people don't like this livery, but I think it's fine. I don't hate it. I know a lot of people hated it when it came out, but it's grown on me. I think it's fine. So yeah. Anyways, we have the auxiliary power unit empennage. We have the right side of the aircraft with a bulk cargo door, main cargo bay, and then we have American written on this side as well as the engines as well here. So yeah, pretty simple airplane, pretty nice. Here's the nose landing gear. I didn't show that off earlier at the beginning of the airplane, but yeah, we have a One World sticker, and then we have the L2 door. So yeah, we can take a tour of the interior on this airplane. We have the forward L1 and R1 doors. We have a flight attendant jump seat. We have the lavatory, cockpit door, and another station right here. Now, this is the flagship domestic first seating, which is just a 2-2 business class option. We have a divider, and then we have the main cabin. We have main cabin extra with some extra legroom at the front, and here's the rest of the airplane towards the rear of the aircraft. Again, pretty simple. It's just pretty simple, you know? This is the Oasis cabin. American Airlines ended up introducing retrofits around the mid 2010s. Initially, it was Kodiak, but then customers really didn't like it and they did some slight modifications to that, which became Oasis. So this is what they have right now. There is no in-flight TV screens. American has been gutting that, but they do have free high-speed internet that's coming, as well as some pretty good seating options. It's pretty all right. So yeah, pretty nice, pretty nice. Anyways, we can take a look in the cockpit of the airplane. This is what it looks like on our Airbus A320 cockpit. We have side sticks for the pilots. We have the rudder pedals, main panel, as well as the lower pedestal and upper panel over here, as well as some side things here. Unfortunately, as you've heard in many of my other videos, this is a pretty small cockpit for the scale that we're building in, so we can't put a ton of detail in it, but this is pretty all right for what we have, so I think it's pretty cool. But that's pretty much all we have for the interior of the American A321s. All of these are relatively the same. American is actually pretty good at standardizing these. American also, though, on that note, there should be an asterisk for that. American does have a sub-fleet of A321s and soon to be A321 Neos that are used for transcon flights. They're marked as A321Ts. Now those have a different separate cabin. They have lie flat first class seats and TV screens because those are used on the lucrative New York to LAX route, which is, you know, filled with tons of business travelers and high premium customers that do want that. So it is a little bit different for that, but that's a sub-fleet. Again, the 21 COs that are for the transcons are going to get retrofitted into the standard cabin, and they're going to be replaced with the 21 Neos once they start getting delivered. But yeah. Anyways, we can start going to the fun liveries. Now, this is the US Airways Heritage livery. Funny enough, this airplane was originally delivered in the US Airways livery, and then American took possession of it when the American brand moved into one brand, and then they just wrote American on the front. Now, a little tidbit that you might not have known is that these little divider stripes are slightly different than what is on the original US Airways livery. Now, I know this is just like really like no one's gonna notice this info, but on the original US Airways logo, these stripes are a continuation of the dark blue, but on this airplane, for some reason, American alternated that and switched it and didn't do that on this airplane. So just a little weird. It's just weird that they did that. But anyways, I digress. Here's what it looks like. US Airways, again, I used to see these all the time growing up, and now that they're gone, it's just kind of weird to think of. I know Andrew probably feels similar sentiment. We used to see these airplanes all the time, and now that they're gone, it's like, yeah, it's gone. But it's very nice. I really appreciate that American keeps heritage liveries in their fleet. But yeah, so anyways, funny enough, before I move on to the next livery, technically, U.S. Airways management runs American Airlines. Technically, it's U.S. Airways, but the American Airlines brand was stronger, and they ended up taking the American Airlines brand. But make no mistake, it was essentially U.S. Airways. But the story of who owns what doesn't end there. We're going to talk about that the further down we go down the line, because it's even more interesting around that. Anyways, we now have the Allegheny special livery, and this is one of my favorites. It's either this or the PSA livery, but I think the Allegheny livery is one of the coolest ones. I love this, especially with the black radome and the black cockpit design over here. I love it. Yeah, it says Allegheny over here and has that on the tail. This is just one of the coolest liveries. I ended up making this on the Phoenix ages ago. I think it's cool. I love it. By far one of my favorite specials for American Airlines right here. So yeah, this is for an airline that operated in the Northeast United States, around the corridor there and whatnot, that ended up being absorbed into the US Airways brand. So yeah. Now, moving onwards, as I had said earlier, technically US Airways management and US Airways runs or is the American Airlines today. Now, there's an asterisk with that, because technically America West is actually doing that. Technically, America West ended up, when they merged with US Airways, again, was the stronger brand, so they ended up going with US Airways instead of America West. Not really sure why. Again, they did the branding. Some people say that, and some, I think, I'm forgetting who said this, but one of American's executives said that they were seriously considering going with America West as the premier brand, but they ended up going with US Airways instead. But anyways, to the point that I had said before, technically, America West took over and ran US Airways, even though it said the US Airways branding, and US Airways technically took over and ran American. So if we're going on in terms of technicality, technically America West is still in existence, only they're just branded as American and running as American. But it's just kind of fascinating to think about that and see how it goes. I know we look at the airplane and we see American Airlines, but no, it's not. It's technically US Airways and technically America West. So just kind of fascinating to see how it kind of goes down that. But enough jabbering yabbering. We can go ahead and get started with this airplane right here. So yeah, here's the tail design and here's the empennage. It has kind of a really interesting little it's not hexagons, but it's kind of like a zigzaggy desert pattern. It's cool. America West had some awesome liveries. Again, I remember seeing them kind of a little bit whenever I was on the West Coast, growing up as a kid. But here's the design. I love it. I think it looks great. I'm pretty sure either Miles or Andrew ended up painting this. They did an amazing job with it. They did just a great job with all of these liveries and whatnot. And actually, we're not done. We have another one. As we're getting further down the line, we have the Piedmont livery, which is another livery that was absorbed into the US Airways brand. And actually, I should probably mention this right now. PSA, Piedmont, America West, and Allegheny all kind of merged together into US Airways. Now, America West essentially runs that, but they all kind of merge into that. So that's why these are all kind of over here and whatnot. But anyways, as I was saying, this is the Piedmont livery, another Northeast airline that was kind of decently large, but ended up kind of going into the US Airways kind of conglomerate towards the end of its lifespan. And yeah, now Piedmont today also runs as it ran as a regional airline as well as a PSA technically nowadays. So yeah, just kind of it's just fascinating seeing how much of these brands jump around and how some of them are still around under technicalities, or like they run as a regional airline and everything. But nevertheless, this is what the Piedmont livery looks like. It says A321 on the tail because Piedmont had a really cool tradition of putting the airplane's type on the tail right there. I love it. It's kind of a shame that we don't really do that anymore. It's kind of, for fleet standardization. But, back in the olden days for older airlines and airplanes, they would, really proudly and boastfully tell you what type of airplane it was, saying like either 767 or, on the Heritage livery A321 or 737, on the tail. So yeah, anyways, SATCOM, registration, all of that. Pretty cool livery. And the last but certainly not least, the PSA livery, Pacific Southwest Airlines, which pioneered a lot of the low-cost model, which Southwest Airlines ended up kind of emulating a little bit in Texas. But this was kind of the first intrastate successful airline of the jet era. They were running a lot of intra-Californian routes because, you know, California is a massive state with tons of flights and tons of demand and whatnot. So, you know, just kind of fascinating that they were able to do this, but it's a shame that they weren't able to make it out of kind of the 80s into the 90s. But anyways, we have the iconic PSA smile. We have the tricolor little gradient over here. And yeah, here's the empennage, and it says PSA. Here's the tail design. Fun fact, a little interesting fun fact about this livery. This PSA logo is slightly different than the PSA logo that they had on the classic airliners. But again, this is just stuff I noticed when I was painting these for the Phoenix A321. So, you know, just kind of interesting, a little fascinating. But yeah, stunning. If I have to say my favorite, it's either PSA or Allegheny, though I really do like America West. I just think American really kind of ate with all these. These are all really great liveries. As another little tidbit before I end up and wrap up with this little tour, originally a lot of these airplanes were on A319s, and some of them were actually original delivered US Airways A319s, but American has now transitioned them to the A321s, and I think it wouldn't be completely out of the blue if American Airlines transitions their 737 retro liveries onto the 737 MAX once those come into service, maybe on a MAX 8 or a MAX 10. So just kind of interesting to see how that's going to play out in the future. But that's pretty much all I have for today's video. If you've enjoyed this video and want to see some more content like this, feel free to check out all my other videos on the channel. And if you made it this far, let me know in the comments, or if you have any suggestions on airplanes or airlines that you'd like to see in the future, feel free to let us know in the comments as well. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Jordan, and I will see you in the next episode.